Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar, How to Keep Your Holiday Customers Long After the Season is Over. Today our presentation is with ALOHA and Retention Science. My name is Alex Barcelona and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager at Retention Science, and I'll be moderating today's presentation. Before we get started, we do have a couple of housekeeping items. We will be recording today's webinar and we will send out the video and the slide deck after. We will have a Q&A session at the end, so during the webinar, feel free to enter your questions into the sidebar and we will get to them at the end. And lastly, you can follow along on Twitter using the hashtag #HolidayChurn. So today I'd like to start by introducing our speakers. First, we have John Fox. He's Client Success Manager at Retention Science. So John, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. Aside from being really photogenic, I've been at Retention Science for about a year now. I handle a lot of client success matters, specifically teaching clients how to be successful with our platform and our predictions.
Okay, great. Thank you, John. Next, we have Matt Michelson, and he is the Director of Data Science here at Retention Science. So Matt, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, thanks. My name is Matt, and I head the team of data scientists, data engineers, and analysts here at Retention Science. We analyze huge amounts of data to make valuable and actionable predictions for our clients, and that's what we do.
Thank you, Matt. Next, we have Cara Klewin of ALOHA. So, Cara, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at ALOHA, and also a little bit about ALOHA itself.
Sure. So I've been ALOHA for just about over a year, and I manage all of our strategy and communications around ALOHA's internal email database and retention as a whole. And just to give a little more detail as to what ALOHA is, ALOHA is a health and wellness brand, and our mission is really to make healthy living easy and accessible to everyone. So, our founder believes that the best nutrients come from clean, whole foods, and we have a variety of products ranging from, organic plant-based protein and protein bars to superfood chocolate to organic teas that all come in easy-to-take with you pouches. You can really boost your nutrition anywhere. And, we also have an online magazine and recipe center because we feel our brand isn't really just a product but a lifestyle.
Great. Thank you, Cara. And with that, I will pass the mic back to John, who will be starting us off on this presentation and tell us a little bit more about customer churn during the holidays.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you everybody for joining. I think we've got some really exciting and interesting things planned to discuss during the course of this webinar. Specifically, this one is about churn and how it relates to these customers you guys are acquiring during this season. So we're going to start out by defining what churn is, how we look at it, and what we define it as here at Retention Science, and then kind of dig a little deeper into the reasons that customers do churn, what we can do on our end to predict churn, and how we do that, and what that can basically help you guys accomplish in your campaigns. We'll kind of touch into how we kind of marry that all together and use it to prevent customer churn, and then give you guys a glimpse into some campaigns that we have worked with some of our partners to get up and running that have really helped mitigate the amount of churn that these people will see. Okay, so first and foremost, what is churn? Churn is basically defined as when a customer unsubscribes from your service, ceases to purchase from you, or simply stops engaging with your brand. The sad truth is that a customer starts churning immediately after you acquire them. So our job as marketers is to really give them a customer journey that's relevant to them, that kind of engages them on a level that's personal to them and keeps them along for as long as possible with your brand. There's a good statistic here that many companies focus on acquisition rather than churn, even though research has shown that it costs as much as 5 times as much to acquire a new customer than to keep an existing one. So here at Retention Science, and what we really try to tell all our partners that do work with us, is to take a proactive approach to marketing. Understand the reasons that your customers do churn and figure out how to reduce that, how to give them content that's a little more relevant and hits home with them. By doing this, you really engage the customer on a deeper level and nurture them so that they can continue to stay with you continue to purchase and continue to jump onto your websites and drive that behavior. Let's take a look at some of the reasons why customers are churning. And there's obviously dozens upon dozens of these. We've kind of picked 5 out to highlight specifically and kind of see if we can start a discussion with you guys on how this relates to your business and what we can do to help you fix some of these items. The first item would obviously be poor customer service. Many of them, from a recent survey, cited customer service being poor as one of the main reasons for them leaving. We know this is a very busy time for not just us as marketers, but also for consumers. Everybody's inbox is getting flooded and filled up during this time. We know that a huge amount of the yearly spend happens in Q4 during this holiday season. So what we really feel you need to do is kind of make that customer service a top priority. By showing your customers and users that you care about them and their journey with your brand, you really deliver them something that resonates strongly with them. Now, I know that ALOHA in particular has excellent customer service, so this has probably not been a big reason for their churn. But Cara, if I can ask, what have you guys done in the past to improve that customer service experience for your users? Them engaged longer?
Well, I'd say one of the things we do is definitely make sure we're available to connect with customers to different channels. So, you know, a lot of people have phone or email, but we also have live chat, and our reps are on there all the time, you know, making sure a customer can reach us at any point in their shopping process. Another thing that we really try to do is surprise and delight our customers. So we really try to go above and beyond, specifically during the holiday season. So, you know, if there's any sort of delay or issue with an order, we make sure to reach out to each customer individually, as well as maybe issue them a credit or even sometimes throw in a surprise gift in their box just to thank them for their patience and really show that we value them, which is really shown to help.
Perfect. Thank you, Cara. We're going to jump right into the next reason that customers do churn, and this is a big one. Not enough value. Obviously, most of the products that we are pushing here do cost money, so there is, you know, the concept of value received and perceived from these users. So when customers don't feel like they're getting value from your brand, they're very quick to experiment, try other brands, jump to a competitor, and so on. So what's the best way to prevent it? Value is very subjective at a customer level, so we need to figure out what drives each customer, what their perception of value is, and then give them something that really resonates with that. For example, some customers find free shipping to be a really good perk and a really good way for us to maximize value for them. Others might want relevant content recommendations or product recommendations. Some also might require incentives from time to time to really help spike that value. To jump back to an ALOHA example, Cara, I know that ALOHA's products are not inexpensive. What does ALOHA do to create or increase the perceived value of the product for your users?
Great question. I think first and foremost, I'd say it's that, I mean, we like to think of ALOHA as a lifestyle, not just a brand, like not just a product within the brand. So, you know, with our products, you're really joining a community. So not only are you buying products that offer you health benefits, but you can access our endless online magazine articles ranging from topics about workouts or healthy travel tips to our huge supply of recipes. Another thing we do for new customers is offer a free trial, so users can really try out our products and get a chance to experience them themselves before actually committing to a full purchase.
Great. A lot of those questions or answers seem to really deal with what you guys are doing on site. Is there anything that you guys specifically do in terms of email campaigns that provide an additional value add-in for those users?
Yeah, so depending, I guess, on the stage of the user's life cycle, we definitely push incentives, whether it be, you know, a free recipe booklet, a discount, or again, our free trial to engage and excite users about the brand. Customers love to feel like they're getting more. So like I said before, even giving them, for example, a curated smoothie recipe for when they buy a smoothie kit that they purchase really excites them and keeps them engaged and wanting to come back for more.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, the third reason that customers do churn is poor quality communications. So a couple of years ago, it seemed like the best way to reach your customer base was to batch and blast. Come up with some really cool or sexy creative and blast it out to your entire customer base. What we're finding as we get deeper and deeper into this email type landscape that we've created here is that each customer is different. Each customer needs a different journey, a different touch, a different message to really drive them to deeper engage with the brand and eventually convert. So what we really do stress here at Retention Science is giving your communications a purpose. Make them relevant to the individual that helps them engage in these conversations to improve overall quality. Now, jumping back into another ALOHA example, I know that ALOHA has done a great job of creating email campaigns crafted to users based on their browsing behavior, on their level of subscription, and so on. Cara, can you give us a couple examples of different campaigns or programs that have really worked well for you to help improve the quality of communications to these users?
Yeah, so couldn't agree more. Our customers really want content that's relevant to them. So, we try and customize our emails based on users' browsing preferences and products. For example, if a user comes on through our recipe center, we'll start them with, say, our top 10 favorite recipe booklet, and then tailor recipes-related emails towards them. Versus, if someone is just new to the database and hasn't purchased, maybe we'll try and give them some welcome language, some background to the brand, and maybe a chance to try our free trial and really try out that brand. Meanwhile, if a user is subscribed already to a specific product, we try to target them with relevant content around that product and uses that would really interest. So, we try and really give people the content that's relevant to them at that point in the process of the life cycle.
Perfect, thank you. Reason number 4 that customers churned is lack of brand loyalty. During the holiday season, many customers are buying from brands they normally wouldn't purchase from. This comes in the form of, buying gifts for friends, family, loved ones, or even just being out shopping and in that space more often and coming across things that you like and picking it up for yourself. How do we prevent people from not gaining that brand loyalty? What do we do to really build that brand affinity up for users of these brands? And the number one way to attack that is to give customers a reason to be loyal to your brand. Create a memorable experience. Offer them some sort of assistance or give them some sort of reward or incentive right off the bat to really make your brand resonate with them and give them that warm, fuzzy feeling. In terms of ALOHA, again, let's kind of jump into, it's a really interesting niche that ALOHA has carved out. I know that when they started, there were probably much fewer competitors in that landscape, and now we've kind of seen more and more entrants into this sort of health food and really interesting recipes and concoctions and powders. What does ALOHA do to really differentiate themselves? And I know that we've kind of touched, Cara, on how ALOHA is more than just products, it's a lifestyle. But what have you guys done to really make that lifestyle stand out and become more of an experiential thing on a brand level?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's a ton of brands out there right now pushing, organic and non-GMO products. I mean, interestingly enough, ALOHA is one of the few brands that really has clean products throughout many channels versus just one channel, but there are so many in each individual channel that's so easy to get lost. So something that we really pride ourselves on is, the experience the customer has from the moment they order to the moment they get their package. We try to make our packaging really clean and pure and look a lot like the way we want our products to taste. So, that whole experience when you open the box is very important to us. And, like you just mentioned, it's not only a product but a lifestyle. So we want customers to feel that when they shop with us, they're not only buying a chocolate bar or protein bar, but really entering a family and community, so that with that comes curated recipes that they receive, a community where they can chat with fellow-minded people like themselves, a bunch of articles. So we really try to make it an all-encompassing brand.
Perfect, thank you. I mean, I know you guys are active really on social media too. That has definitely helped you guys really create that community. So that's one more item I just wanted to drop in there. The fifth and final reason that we're going to touch on for reasons that customer churn today is unmet expectations. So when a customer feels you've let them down, they're really quick to jump off your ship. With all the online outlets, we've got such a crowded space with competitors, with different review sites. They're very quick to let their networks know how they were disappointed. So what's the best way to really reduce that from happening? And we really live by the concept of under-promising and over-delivering. Not to say that you want to downplay the product or the brand or the service that you're providing, but you want to be very realistic in expectations that you're setting for those users. And then when you do over-deliver, it does delight them. Especially during a hectic holiday season, if you're unable to fulfill a promise or you're going to come in under on those expectations, do what you can to be transparent to those users. Sometimes honesty goes a long way. And remember that churn reason number one brings this back full circle. The customer service can make all the difference in bringing those unmet expectation customers back on board and keep them engaged and active as we move deeper into this holiday season. Okay, now a lot of what we touched on so far has been really theoretical. What we're going to kind of do now is dive into the actual predictions that drive our churn model, and I'll hand this over to Matt to kind of take it from here.
Great, thanks, John. So now that you kind of have a sense of why the customers are churning, we're going to talk a little bit about how our models can predict whether customers are going to churn or remain active, or whether they're at risk of churning if they haven't done so already. So obviously the first thing we want to talk about is just what it means to have churn in your customer base, and really at the mathematical level, because that's what we're going to do when we're trying to predict this value. So actually computing churn can be a little bit tricky. There's some nuance. You need to decide whether a customer has actually been lost at a given point in time. You may need to think about what time period you want to measure the churn over. So for a deeper technical treatment, I do point you to our blog post on churn, and you can see some of the discussion there. But really, at its basis sense, the core to computing churn is to just simply take the number of customers that you've lost over the initial customers that you've had in that period, and that's your churn rate. So if you started off with 100 customers in the period and you lost 50 of them, then your churn rate would be 50%, because you basically lost half of them. And this churn rate is really powerful because it lets you not only understand the number of customers that you've lost, but you can assign a value to the recurring business that you've given up. So by losing half of those customers, if you had expected them each to spend $10, and then that means that you've lost $500 in that period. And you can also understand the percentage of recurring revenue that they represent. So as John pointed out earlier, it's much more expensive to acquire customers than to retain them. And in particular, it's because if you have good recurring revenue from those customers, that's generating over time. So churn is obviously affecting that number because those customers aren't bringing in the recurring revenue had they remained customers. And finally, just a forward point, so we're going to be releasing our Black Friday analysis coming up. And one of the most interesting things that's relevant to this talk in particular is that we found that customers who make their first purchase on Black Friday will churn out 274% faster than customers who make their first purchase at another point of the year. So on average, we found that customers churn after about 70 days, but customers whose first purchase is on Black Friday will churn after 24 days. So that's a remarkable decrease, and it means that they're buying stuff and just not coming back very quickly. So that's basically how you compute churn in the most simple calculation. So then given that we want to compute this churn, how will we predict it? So here at Retention Science, we actually view churn as a probability that somebody's going to remain a customer or not. So this means that we can do an interpretation to say something like this person is 75% likely to make a purchase or not make a purchase. That's really the key to what the probability represents. And we call these probabilities a churn score. And we'll get into how we compute the churn score in a second. But the key idea is that because it's a probability, it's a range that starts at 0 and goes all the way to 100%. So if someone's churn score is 0%, that means they have a 0% probability that they're going to leave your business. On the opposite spectrum, if somebody has 100% as their churn score, it means that they're basically guaranteed to leave or they've already left the company. So we call that churn. So now that we have this spectrum from 0 to 100 and we can lay people on this spectrum using the churn score, we want to make this into an actionable campaign. So we bucket these people. So rather than having to come up with content for every specific churn probability, for instance, everybody whose churn probability is 23% might get this email versus 32%, we view buckets of people. So at the lowest end of the spectrum of churn scores, we have the bucket of ready-to-buy people. So these are people who have a very low churn score, so they have a very low probability of churning. So these customers are probably going to make a purchase, or they're very likely to make a purchase at some point. So you may want to target this group with one particular piece of content. At the opposite end of the spectrum, you see number 3 here are the people with the highest churn scores. They've churned. These are the people who you're going to hit with your win-back campaign, and they're very likely not to purchase again. And in the middle, between these two extrema, are the at-risk customers. So these are the customers who may make a purchase again, they may churn. The probability is in the middle. So in some sense, you can push them one way and make them buy, but you might actually make a misstep and push them the other way, and then they're going to churn. So we take these churn scores and we lay people out along the spectrum. So you can see the happiest people on the far left have the low churn score, and the angry and upset customers on the right have the high churn score. Those are the red guys. And then we can take the people aligned through these scores and then bucket them using something called statistical machine learning. And what we'll do is we'll throw these people into these different buckets depending on where they lie in the spectrum. So the 2 happy green customers on the far left will go into the ready-to-buy bucket. The lighter green and a few of the orange customers will fall into the at-risk bucket. So these are customers who may make a purchase or may not make a purchase. And then at the far end of the spectrum, we have the churn customers. And then this allows you to come up with particular campaigns for particular groups depending on the behavior you want to see if you can engage them with. Just a quick note that we update 100 million users a day to determine where they fall on this churn spectrum across all of our clients. So that's how the churn score works. We compute this probability measure and then we throw people into the bucket. So the next natural question is, well, how do you compute that churn score? So we have a number of statistical models, and I'm going to talk about one of them here, which is called the Markov churn model. So Markov is just a mathematical property that we exploit, and then it's a churn model because it's predicting churn. And really what you're seeing in this diagram from left to right is the customer journey. And what the Markov churn model does is at every single stage along this journey, it assigns a very specific probability based on user behavior. So on the far left, users are first acquired, and then after they're acquired, they'll make their first purchase and they'll move into the purchase bucket. And then you can see the circular arrow coming back represents the fact that users will repeat purchase. They'll make 1, 2, 3, 4 purchases before they've decided they've had enough, and then they shift into the churned bucket. And so what this model does is every arrow that you're seeing is assigned a probability. So when a user moves from the acquired to their first purchase, we know the probability that the user is going to do that given some behavior. We then know the probability that the user is going to make a number of repeat purchases based on the behavior they're exhibiting. And then finally, we know the probability that the user is going to churn at any point given their behavior. And so what the diagram is showing at the bottom with the circling of the little person there is that for this particular person, we can compute the probability that they're going to move into the churn state from the purchase state, given that they're 4 days from their second order, they've had 12 on-site actions. So that means we've tracked that they've navigated to a particular page or they've added something to their cart. They've done this 12 times, and they spent $57 in their last order. So by combining all of these pieces of information in the Markov model, we can come up with the probability that the person is going to move somewhere along the churn score spectrum from 0 to 100, representing their journey from left to right. So that's really it. That's one of our models and sort of how we use all of these scores here in the Retention Science Data Science group.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matt. So using this churn model, what can we as marketers do to prevent churn? Excuse me. First and foremost, most important part is knowing who your customer is and understand that this persona can change throughout the year. For example, jewelry companies may target women most of the year, but messaging around Valentine's Day or the holidays might be designed to target men, as most of them are jumping in to grab gifts. Number 2, provide a smooth customer journey from start to finish. Test each stage of the purchasing process yourself to make sure it's intuitive and easy to follow. So I'm going to jump back in and ask Aloha a question here. What have you been able to do to really smooth out that customer journey? And I know we've touched on a lot of these different points and campaigns, but what have you found has been the most successful in making a smooth transition of this journey for each of your users?
Yeah, so, through combining a few segments of campaigns, we really try and tell a full story. So, we start out with educational and informational pieces, and then, we'll walk through, say, the uses of our product and incorporate, your purchase into your everyday. And, we also aim to deliver what users want based on their actions through the site. So whether it's content, whether browsing, or, reminding them of, say, a new product similar to the ones they're viewing, we really just try and make everything they're seeing relevant to what they're doing at that moment.
Perfect. Thank you, Cara. And just to kind of follow up on some more items of different things we're doing with some of our other partners, what we've really done for companies like Target, like Honest, is really power the recommendations that show up in these emails to make that content really relevant for them across their journey and give them the products or the items that they're looking for at that stage of their life cycle. Another tip for preventing churn is rewarding your advocates. These are obviously the most valuable customers you'll have. They promote your brand across their media circles, so we need to reward them by giving them opportunities to provide reviews and getting their friends to become customers. Some of the items that we've kind of seen some of our partners do, for example, especially during this holiday time, is give the option of gifting the product to somebody that you do have in your circle. When you do something like this, you kind of create another opportunity to start a conversation with a different person. Some perks that you can provide to these users would be saying, hey, if you gift this product to somebody during this time, we'll give you a 10% coupon off your subscription or off your next purchase. This really resonates with users, especially around this time, as everybody seems to be more in the giving spirit, but they still do want a little something for themselves. Lastly, time is of the essence. When it comes to recapturing these customers, you really have a short window. A lot of different ESPs, a lot of different marketing strategies really only focus on those active customers and then those churn customers. What Retention Science really has added to the mix here is that at-risk segment. By kind of looking at all of the different signals that we're monitoring, not just in purchase behavior, but also in browsing behavior and the way that they're engaging with emails, we think we've come up with a really good way of identifying the people that we can really move the needle for. It's much easier to get somebody back on board before they churn. So with this at-risk red flag, we really give a marketer an opportunity to speak to this audience that's currently sitting on the fence and help them come up with strategies, with incentives, with recommendations that help bring that user back. What we're going to kind of do next is jump into how ALOHA specifically re-engages these customers who have churned after the holidays. What I want to lay out first is just one of the win-back campaigns that ALOHA is running through Retention Science. Win-back campaign, nothing new to most of you people listening. This is just a series of marketing messages, core function of bringing back a lapsed customer back into that purchasing cycle. Two main components of this obviously would be messaging that really addresses the reason for cancellation. This has actually been really powerful for some of our other partners like Dollar Shave Club or Honest, where they track cancellation reason. We kind of take a look at those cancellation reasons, what the largest chunks of them kind of fall into, and then we craft specific campaigns centered around those cancellation reasons and kind of addressing the concerns that each of those users may have. Second opportunity you have to re-engage these guys is by using offers. Give them a discount on a future purchase or a free month. Maybe it's free shipping, but something that kind of gives them a little extra thank you for coming back and re-engaging with your brand. On the right, you kind of see an ALOHA piece of created with a $20 off coupon. This was a really effective campaign targeted at those users who had spent X amount of dollars over their lifetime but had recently fallen off. So kind of creating something that's relevant and at the price point that really hits with those specific groups of users was really paramount to the success of this. And I'll kind of let Cara talk about some of these other ones. I'm not sure if there's anything else you wanted to add on this slide, Cara, but I'll jump to the next one and we could circle back if you need to.
Sure. Yeah, so, like John mentioned, we like to track, we also as well track what cancellation reasons, so, whether someone cancels versus something's too expensive or they don't like the taste, and then that's a really good way to tailor the messaging. So as you'll see on this slide, there's a few emails. One is, it's been a while, come back and enjoy free shipping. One is, we missed you. So really tailoring that message to someone that hasn't engaged in a while to come back, and then playing with different offers. You can really, through the dynamic insertion of these offers, you can make sure the offer is tailored to the customer's purchase behavior. So, somebody who is maybe a little more likely to purchase will get free shipping versus someone who gets maybe a heavier offer like 20% off or 30% off. So, even right now we're playing with these offers and still figuring out what's the most effective one and the right messaging. But there's a bunch of different ways you can test. And then another thing that we really like to do as well is pair our content with offers to really make the offering resonate. So as you'll see on the left, whether it be a recipe or on the right an ingredient spotlight, we try to really add value to our product by giving users some insight and education and something to intrigue them, and then maybe also provide them with a discount or then push a free trial. So that it adds a little more than just a coupon. And then lastly, we always want to give customers a choice. So if a customer can really curate and choose what they want, it sets them up for a more enjoyable experience. So, for our free trial, we now allow customers to choose their sample. And it's really a great way to bring them back and not only get them to try a different product, but also one that we know they hand selected and thus have an intention towards. So ultimately, we'll make them happier in the end.
Perfect. Thank you, Cara. So let's jump into kind of a recap of everything we have discussed here. There's obviously a lot of reasons why a customer or user would churn. So what can we do to kind of really recap and do things to avoid that holiday churn? So the first step obviously is understanding what those reasons are. We've kind of identified a few of them that seem to be most relevant across many of our partners. Many of you listening on the phone may have your own major reasons for churn. First step in combating them is identifying those reasons and then creating content or a strategy that really does attack that. Second would really be understanding that churn rate is a useful calculation. By understanding how long you retain customers and how often you lose customers, it really helps you understand the impact of the campaigns you're running and the business that's being lost by not really focusing that content catered to what these users are looking for. Data science helps predict churn by calculating this churn score, bucketing customers into these actionable segments for you to use, and then really helps you understand what type of message each of those users would need at certain times. There's a lot of ways of calculating churn. One of them that we touched on and had a really nice diagram for was the Markov model. This is something retention science uses to predict the probability that a customer will make another purchase. Keep in mind that's looking much deeper than just purchase history or order data. It's looking at the way that each user is engaging with your brand on site, through email, and so on and so forth. To prevent churn, know your customers. Make sure that you provide them with a smooth customer journey, and then reward the ones that stick around longer, that share your brand with their circle of friends, and understand that timing for this is everything, especially right now. Running a campaign in advance of these holidays that really rewards your best advocates can be a smart idea. They start sharing on social media. They start telling your friends how much you care about them and how well you treat them at this time, and that's a story they want to tell their friends. Lastly, win-back campaigns are a great way to re-engage these customers who have churned, but it's not as simple as just a batch and blast. Now that we have all these different layers of data on these users, let's figure out a strategy and a way to speak to them that makes them feel special, that makes them feel like we're talking specifically to them and they're just not part of this large group that was lost. Okay.
Thank you, and thank you to John and Cara and Matt. You guys gave us some really great insights into customer churn, something that's definitely on all marketers' minds this holiday season. So I think now let's jump into a couple of questions that were asked during the webinar. So first, this one is for you, Matt. How do you know how well your churn model performs?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually take two approaches to answering this question because it's not necessarily as simple as you might expect initially. First, we test our predictions using historic data, so this is known as a back test. For example, if we say that certain people would have churned X months ago, like 3 months ago, we then see if that really happened. So you go back into some historic data, going back a number of months, and you look at the predictions that you made on that month for churn, and you said these people will definitely churn, these people are absolutely going to buy again, and then you fast forward in your historic data and see did that really happen, did the predictions hold true, and then you can measure accuracy. And there's a number of ways that you actually can measure accuracy beyond just were all the predictions correct. You can look at how well did you do for the people who did buy, and how well did you do the people who didn't buy. And again, you can look at the blog post on churn to see the suite of metrics that we use there. So that's sort of a generic how well did churn measure whether churn happened type of phenomena. But we also look at sort of how do our churn measures affect sort of a business impact. So from a business impact perspective, we predicted that these people would churn and have a particular impact therefore on your business, and this other group of individuals would remain more loyal customers and have an impact. So what we do in this case is we look at the three cohorts that we talked about. Those people that are ready to buy, so they have low churn scores, they're very likely to make another purchase. The people who are at risk, so they're somewhere in between perhaps buying and perhaps leaving the business, and the people who have churned. And then we compare not only their churn rates, so we can see that the people who are in the churn bucket churn a lot more obviously than the people who are in ready to buy. But we also look at how much they spend and how many orders they make. And what's surprising is how big these differences can be. So people in the ready to buy group will spend 3, 4 times as much as the people in the churn group, and they'll make, on the order of sometimes 10 times more orders than the people that are in the churn group. So that way we can look at the impact of the business that each of these cohort predictions actually had.
Wow, thank you, Matt. That's a very detailed answer, and thank you for sharing more about the models that we use. This next question, I'm going to direct at you, John, but Cara, if you want to chime in here too as well. If Black Friday customers churn faster than other customers, referring back to that stat that we showed earlier, does this mean I shouldn't put a lot of focus on this type of holiday promotion?
Sure, I'll jump in first, and then Cara, you can kind of fill in anything I do miss. But I think that would be very naive to not focus on bringing users in at this stage of the game. They may be more likely to churn faster. That doesn't mean they aren't customers that you're actually getting a really cheap acquisition of. When they come on board, the best thing that you can do is really cater your content specifically to this type of user. Like we said, they churn out in about 24 days as opposed to 70 on the whole that we've seen in the past. So we've got a really tight window here to really focus some campaigns and some strategies specifically to those types of users. People that we know are most likely going to be a one and done. But with something like ALOHA, which is a subscription company, this is a great opportunity to maybe give them an extra buy 1 month, get the next month half off, and try to give them a little more opportunity to interact with your brand, to engage with the brand, and like Matt and Cara said, to kind of delight them with something that you don't necessarily need to give them, but something that you can give them that really makes that brand affinity grow, especially during this really crowded time.
Yeah, and I mean, I really agree. I feel like Black Friday is definitely a great way to get, users to try your products, or even like give a gift of your products to someone else by giving them a deal. So it's definitely a great way to get your name out there and get people using your products, and then from there to really tailor that messaging to keep them engaged after the fact.
Great, thank you so much. Our next question, I believe, is for you, Matt. Do we track customers individually with regards to churn?
Yeah, that's a good question, and in fact we do. So as we mentioned in the slide, we actually compute individual churn scores for roughly 100 million people, and that's each person individually. And then what happens is each person is placed along this churn score spectrum. So me, Matt, I'm an individual, and I get a churn score of, well, I'm a good customer, 34%. So I end up, then being cohorted into the ready-to-buy bucket. So yes, churn score is computed on an individual level and then aggregated up into the cohorts.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And I think this last question will be for you too as well, Matt. Just now that we've talked about churn, how to prevent it, and that type of thing, the next question is how to actually use it. So how do we use the churn model in our retention marketing program?
Yeah, that's another good question. So really, we craft the program specifically to the cohorts that we're looking for. So a really good example is a win-back campaign. So you have to know who has really left your business in order to target them to win them back in the first place. So there we're looking for the churned users. Another good example is for at-risk customers. We either tend to send them special promotions to try to tip them towards the scale of being ready to buy, or particular re-engagement content. So something that gets them excited again, or personalized recommendations, all again to try to move them along that spectrum because they're at risk into this ready to buy bucket. And then as John has pointed out, your advocates are always your best customers. And it's quite often the case that the advocates are in the ready to buy cohort because they're good consumers who make repeat purchases. So you can target them with special campaigns to really nurture the best customers that you have.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt. And I just want to say thank you again to John and Cara and Matt for joining us today and giving us some really great insights into customer churn. And thank you to everyone who joined us. If you have any further questions, feel free to email us, tweet us, call us if you want, and let us know. We're happy to answer your questions, and we look forward to you joining us next time. Thank you.